Good morning. Today, we're diving into a story that's making waves far beyond the borders of a small American town. A story from a small town in Georgia has sparked international controversy, reaching all the way to South Korea's government. What began as a local news item quickly escalated into a global headline, drawing attention from diplomats, business leaders, and everyday people on both sides of the Pacific. In September 2025, a massive immigration raid hit a new Hyundai motor car battery plant near Savannah, raising tough questions about global business, labor laws, and international promises. The plant, still gleaming and unfinished, suddenly became the center of a storm that no one saw coming. The factory, a joint venture between Hyundai and LG Energy Solution, was supposed to symbolize US-Korea partnership and bring high-tech jobs to the region. Local officials had celebrated the project as a sign of economic progress, and both companies touted it as a model for international cooperation. Instead, the raid turned it into a legal and diplomatic crisis, with federal agents detaining hundreds of workers, many skilled specialists from South Korea, over alleged visa violations. The images of workers being led away shocked the community and sent ripples through the global auto industry. This isn't just about paperwork. It's about the lives of workers, the reputations of major corporations, and the delicate balance between economic ambition and immigration law. Families were left in limbo, and executives faced mounting pressure to explain how things went so wrong. The incident is a wake-up call for international companies. In the US, rules matter, and breaking them can have far-reaching consequences. It's a reminder that even the biggest players must navigate a complex web of regulations and public expectations. As we dig deeper, we'll see how a rush to meet deadlines and cut costs put hundreds at risk, and what it means for the future of global business. The Hyundai plant story is more than a headline. It's a lesson in the challenges and responsibilities that come with building across borders. The morning of the raid was chaotic. Federal agents from Homeland Security swept in, their presence unmistakable as they moved with purpose through the factory gates. Officers quickly locked down the site, blocking all exits and checking every worker's legal status, leaving no room for escape or confusion. Nearly 475 people were detained in a matter of hours, including over 300 South Korean technicians who had been brought in by subcontractors to install advanced equipment and keep the project on schedule. The project ground to a halt. Companies scrambled to account for their staff, assess the damage, and figure out how to move forward in the face of such a massive disruption. LG Energy Solution confirmed 47 of its employees were among those arrested. The company quickly issued warnings to others in similar visa situations, urging them to leave the area or stay home to avoid further trouble. Many workers believed their travel and paperwork were properly arranged, trusting the system to protect them. But some knew the risks. One technician admitted he'd warned colleagues they could screw up their lives if caught in a sweep like this. The raid left workers stranded, projects unfinished, and companies facing a public relations nightmare as the story made headlines across the country. For the workers, the experience was deeply unsettling. Caught between the pressure to keep their jobs and the constant fear of discovery, many were left questioning their future. The event exposed a dangerous gap between corporate hiring practices and U.S. immigration enforcement, highlighting just how vulnerable both workers and companies can be. It was a turning point for everyone involved, forcing a reckoning with the realities of global labor, immigration law, and the risks that come with cutting corners. Why did this happen? It comes down to U.S. visa laws. Many South Korean workers entered on the Visa Waiver Program, ESTA, or B-1 business visas, meant for meetings, not hands-on labor. But these specialists were installing complex machinery, work that requires hard-to-get employment visas like the H-1B companies. Facing tight deadlines, used ESTA and B-1 visas as a shortcut, bypassing the slow, restrictive work visa process. This open secret in the industry put both workers and companies at risk. One technician admitted he misrepresented his role to get a B-1 visa, a direct violation of immigration law. The consequences are severe. Workers face bans from the U.S., companies risk fines and reputational damage. The Georgia raid was a clear message. The U.S. is cracking down, and the line between business and labor is not negotiable. The days of bending the rules are over. Compliance is now a matter of survival. The visa problems at the Hyundai plant didn't come out of nowhere. There were plenty of warnings, and the signs were hard to miss for anyone paying attention. Workers had voiced concerns, and both US and South Korean officials had flagged the risks. Employees on the ground reported confusion and anxiety about their legal status, while supervisors struggled to find solutions. As early as 2023, South Korean officials noted that visa difficulties were forcing contractors to use ESTA, leading to denied entries at US airports. These warnings were documented in official memos and discussed in public forums. US officials, too, warned companies not to cut corners. One Commerce Department official told Korean firms directly, "Don't put your employees at risk." The message was clear, and it was repeated in several industry meetings. Despite these red flags, the pressure to finish billion-dollar projects kept the risky practice alive. Deadlines loomed, and the stakes were high for everyone involved. LG Energy Solution even held legal briefings for employees, acknowledging the gray area, but it wasn't enough. Legal teams tried to clarify the rules, but confusion persisted, and many workers felt left in the dark. The raid showed authorities saw this not as a misunderstanding, but as a deliberate choice to ignore the law. Investigators made it clear that repeated warnings had been disregarded. The warnings were clear, but the drive to meet deadlines overrode caution. Executives weighed the risks, but ultimately chose speed over compliance. The result? A crisis that could have been avoided. Production ground to a halt, and the fallout rippled through the industry. Companies gambled with the law and lost. The legal and financial consequences were swift and severe. The fallout is a lesson in the cost of ignoring official warnings. For companies everywhere, it's a stark reminder. Shortcuts can come at a very high price. After the raid, Hyundai and LG Energy Solution moved fast to manage the fallout. Hyundai distanced itself, stressing that none of its direct employees were detained, blaming suppliers and subcontractors. The company promised a full investigation and declared zero tolerance for legal violations. LG Energy Solution, whose own employees were among the detained, admitted it knew about visa challenges and had tried to educate staff. But those efforts fell short, and the company's urgent warnings to other workers showed just how widespread the problem was. Both companies now face intense scrutiny, not just from the law, but from the public and their business partners. The incident highlights the complexity of global supply chains, where oversight can slip through the cracks. For Hyundai, protecting its brand means re-examining every link in its contractor network. The message is clear. In today's environment, compliance isn't just a legal issue, it's a business imperative. The raid quickly became a diplomatic flashpoint. In Washington, President Trump doubled down on strict immigration enforcement, insisting companies must hire Americans and follow the law. Yet he hinted at a possible compromise, allowing foreign experts in, but only to train U.S. workers. In Seoul, the government went into crisis mode, sending its foreign minister to Washington to push for visa reform. South Korea argued that the current U.S. visa system is outdated and doesn't fit the needs of modern high-tech industries. They want a dedicated visa category for skilled Korean professionals, similar to those for Australia and Singapore. The raid gave new urgency to these demands, turning a business issue into a top diplomatic priority. Both sides now face pressure to find a solution that balances economic growth with legal compliance. The crisis reveals a deeper problem. The U.S. visa system is out of sync with economic reality. South Korean companies struggle to get enough H-1B visas for their specialists. Demand far exceeds supply, and the process is slow and uncertain. That's why many turn to B1 or ESTA visas, operating in a gray zone that was once overlooked but is now strictly enforced. The Trump administration's crackdown eliminated any wiggle room, catching companies off guard. The contradiction is stark. The U.S. encourages foreign investment in high-tech sectors, but its immigration system blocks the very talent needed to make those projects succeed. Companies are forced to choose between costly delays and risky shortcuts. The Georgia raid proved the risk is real, and the old ways no longer work. The system needs urgent reform to match the pace of global business. In the wake of the raid, both governments are under pressure to act. South Korea's foreign minister is in Washington, pushing for a new visa category for skilled Korean professionals, a move that would benefit both countries. They argue that streamlined visas would keep projects on track and prevent future crises. The U.S. may be open to compromise, with President Trump suggesting a technical training visa that allows foreign experts to install equipment and train Americans. Such a program could balance the need for expertise with the political priority of protecting U.S. jobs. The incident could spark broader immigration reform, at least for employment-based visas. For the U.S. to stay competitive, it needs a visa system that's efficient, transparent, and responsive to economic needs. The current crisis is a catalyst for change. The outcome will shape the future of global business in America. The Hyundai raid is a stark lesson in the human cost of cutting corners. Hundreds of workers face detention, deportation, and shattered futures, reminders that corporate shortcuts have real consequences. For companies, the message is clear. Compliance is non-negotiable, and the risks of ignoring the law far outweigh any short-term gains. The U.S. must reconcile its push for foreign investment with an immigration system that allows needed talent to enter legally. The raid exposes a policy contradiction that can no longer be ignored. For governments and corporations alike, the incident is a call to modernize visa agreements and supply chain oversight. The future of global business depends on clear rules and lawful practices. The Georgia raid is a cautionary tale, but also an opportunity to build a more stable, lawful foundation for international cooperation. The world is watching what happens next.